J-Lo create vibes now.
Welcome to another episode of the Get Love Like Mine podcast. We are your humble hosts. I'm Keisha Amos. This is my beautiful husband, Sam Amos. This is episode 17, and this is the season finale, season 1 season finale. We'll be back for the spring. We hope that you guys have enjoyed all the content. If you're not following us already, make sure to follow us on Instagram and Facebook at Get a Love Like Mine podcast. On Twitter, we're Get Love Like Mine. And if you're watching this on YouTube, be sure to subscribe. And if you're listening on Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, iTunes, Spotify, iHeart, Amazon, wherever you're listening, be sure to subscribe so that you get notifications once season 2 starts. What are we talking about today, babe?
Today, in our final episode, we will be taking a look at the past. Looking back over, I guess, your life as an adult, and if you had the opportunity to give your younger self some advice, what would it be?
What would I tell my younger self? First, I would start with, you are enough. You are fearfully and wonderfully made. Your imperfections don't define you. You are God's masterpiece. That's the thing that I would tell my younger self, because I did have a lot of self-esteem issues growing up.
What age group would you say that was? When
probably middle school. Middle school is when, for girls, you start to see some girls develop and some don't. Or you go through this hormone surge where you might gain weight or you might lose weight. And I think that was when I kind of started comparing myself to other girls and thinking I wasn't good enough.
So that's around the time where you would say it kind of started. Is there an age where it tapers off and it no longer is part of your everyday life, where you feel like, I don't know what I was thinking?
I don't know. I don't know what the age was when I finally was like, you're the bomb. No matter what is, whether you're fat, skinny, tall, like, I would say maybe my late 30s is when I started to appreciate my flaws and to see all women as beautiful in some way. When you're younger, you don't mind pointing out people's flaws. That's just something you do when you're a kid. Oh, she's ugly, oh, she's fat. Kids don't have a filter. And so I think it was in my late 30s when I started to appreciate the beauty in all women. No matter size, skin color, you start to look more at who they are as opposed to how they look.
As you grow older.
Yeah. You get to your late 30s, you start, for me, it was late 30s when I started paying more attention to your character than your looks. So, what about you? What advice would you give your younger self?
As I look back, and a lot of this, basically this whole episode is what I would hope young folks could gain from watching this. Is like things that you would have told things you wish you knew back then that you know now, but you can't go back and redo any of it. But self-esteem, I don't know. I'm sure there was a time frame in there where it probably played a part. I can remember all I recalled from being a young guy, young fella, was being an athlete. That was my whole intake in my mind, my brain. That's all I wanted to do, whether it was football, basketball, running track, kickball, softball, it didn't matter. We were just outside the whole time. And as a little fella, I was super fast. And here's one thing that I can share with young athletes. Don't take your physical abilities for granted, because the day's gonna come when you aren't that. I was fast. I didn't know I was fast until I wasn't fast anymore. There's a lot of things you don't really appreciate until you can't do it anymore. I talk to my dad often, and we were on the subject of me playing Little League football while we were at our son's Little League football game. And my dad says, "Man, I remember you had to be the fastest kid I ever seen in my life." And I never had heard that. That's what my dad thought of me when I was little. That probably would have done wonders for my confidence. You know what I'm saying? To hear that from somebody that's your idol. But yeah, don't take life for granted when you're young. It's hard because when I was young, I can remember having a short temper. Now, I don't mean junior high and 10, 12, 14 years old. I mean in my early 20s. Oh, I was horrible. I was horrible. And I see it a lot today out there in the world, either at the workplace or especially in the news. And social media is going to show you everything. That the news, they can just turn that off, because you'll get it on social media way before the news gets a hold of it. Matter of fact, the news goes to social media saying, "Can you share that with me?" Yeah, because they don't have it. But I can remember being young and short-tempered, and then you look back and say, "I don't know why I acted like that. I don't know what was wrong with me." But I would definitely try to calm myself down to realize just how short life is while you're wasting time for no reason.
If I could go back and talk to my younger self as far as my education, I think I mentioned before that I had a scholarship, an academic scholarship from the University of Houston when I graduated high school. It was $10,000, and they broke it down into $2,500 per year, $1,250 per semester. And this was in 1993, and that covered tuition. Like, I still got a refund that I was able to then go buy books with. Just $1,250 per semester. You know, college is way more than that now. But all I had to take was 12 hours. But when I turned 18, I went and bought a new car, so I had a car with a car note. I had a full-time job. But I could have worked part-time and just went to school full-time. But I thought working full-time and working full-time and going to school full-time, I thought I'd be okay. And it wasn't until I got to be about 20 years old that I decided I wanted to move out and be a grown-up and pay my own rent and car note and light bill and cell phone bill and cable bill, and you have all these bills, and then you realize that one full-time job is not going to get it. So I had to work a full-time and a part-time, and then trying to squeeze school in, it just was not feasible. And so I ended up letting that scholarship go. I in essence dropped out of school. And if I could tell my younger self, I would say, don't move out. Just bear with, because I was having issues with my mom. Just bear with it. I only had two and a half years of school left, and I could have finished. I should have finished at that time, because it would have made all the difference in the caliber of jobs that I ended up getting. Because at the time, although I saw myself being like an executive or whatever, you can't do that without the degree. So because I didn't have the degree, I had to settle for jobs like clerks and, that type of clerical, positions. And it all stemmed from me not finishing college when it was free. Because at 35, I went back to school and graduated, but I had to take out student loans that I still owe right now today. So if I could tell, education-wise, if I could go back and talk to my younger self, it would be to finish college right out of high school.
Wow.
While it was free.
When I left high school, I went to college on an athletic scholarship. And I had the scholarship, and then the athletic department went bankrupt for a few years, so everybody that was on scholarship had to leave, even the coaches. But prior to that, I had broke my ankle twice, once at practice, and then the second time I broke the same ankle when I wasn't supposed to be playing on it. And this was prior to the whole financial issues with the athletic department. And man, my coach had a fit when he found out I re-broke the ankle that was supposed to be healing. But I was here, I'd come home for the summer. Like, bad story. Well, you do dumb stuff when you're young. I tell you, man. So I came home for the summer, and my ankle's healing fine, right? And then I'm in Greenspoint with visiting my older sister, and it's in some apartments, and they got a basketball goal out there, and me and a couple of my friends out there were playing, and this group of guys come up, and boy, they are mouthing off the whole time what they can do to us. And so, of course, we play them. There's a lot of trash talking going on. And in the midst of that game, it was so intense. Everybody's emotions are boiling over. It's about this close to everybody getting in a big fight or whatever. But I ended up re-breaking that ankle that day. When I should have been playing anyway, but they kind of baited me into.
Don't blame them. Don't blame them.
The ego had taken over at that age, so you can always say, "Hey, man, don't let your ego get in the way of, your decisions." But that day, my ego got the best of me. I made a bad decision, and I broke my ankle, and boy, my coach was upset with me. But they say all things happen for a reason. That was a painful all thing. Man, that was not a fun day, man. My legs swelled up twice the size.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it was pretty ugly. Yeah.
Wow. Did y'all at least win?
I don't think we even finished.
Oh, okay.
Because that happened in the middle of the game. Yeah.
Okay.
And they had to cart me off to the emergency room.
Oh my gosh. What about your work history? What advice would you give your younger self as far as work goes?
Well, we kind of discussed this the other day. I guess we were on the subject of my brother and how smart he is. Just book sense. Like, none of my other siblings, including myself, were nearly as smart as my brother. I don't know what kind of brain he has. It's exceptional. But anyway, we never made grades like that in school. And growing up, we saw our dad work multiple jobs. And he didn't complain about it. He always taught us that, hey, if you want something in life, you don't make excuses. There's a way to go and get anything. So all you just have to do is keep grinding away until you figure out how to get there, whether it means take 2 jobs and hot shot, drive a truck, or mow yards on the side, or whatever. But what I was getting to was, when we were younger, the older generation always told us, just get an education. And I know, like you mentioned in a previous episode, that they came up in a time where education wasn't readily available for black folks. You know, so that was a huge accomplishment for blacks in the 50s and 60s if you got education. So we come along in the 70s and 80s, and that's their advice to us is, look, just get an education. So we heard that from everybody that was older than us, our parents, aunts, uncles, everybody, hey, just get education, get education. But no one ever told us where, you know, they didn't give you a blueprint of where you could end up with this education. Now, you gather from it, yeah, it must be a good thing to get one because everybody's saying it. But when you're tired of books, you know, and you're not a book savvy person anyway, I'm not just going to sit here and read a book this thick. I just can't do it. Even to this day, I'll lose attention. But when you're tired of school, it's hard to go from middle school to high school and then 4 years of college and stay focused like, I guess you would say, like an adult should. Because see, once you get to be older, it's not hard at all because you have vision. This is where I'm trying to go. And this is what I need to do to get there. So all I have to do is this over here. Well, when you're younger, you're so ready to be done with school. A lot of times you'll just start to feel like school's not for me. You know, I'd rather, you know, at least try the workforce and see what I can do. You know, let me make some money. I want to buy my own car. I want to have my own place or whatever. So I spent a lot of my life, my younger life, 20s, 30s, even early 40s, working 2 jobs. And yeah, it probably wore me down as of right now, but I didn't complain about it because I was able to live, you know, the kind of lifestyle I wanted to live.
So you don't have any regrets about it? Nothing that you would tell yourself, your younger self, about your work?
Well, if I had known or had like a full blueprint of where education could have taken me, I wish I'd have had someone like our kids. They can go to, like, your brother owns his own mortgage company. He owns his own real estate. He has his own bank. He has all these things that he really basically taught himself. Like, he didn't go to college for any of this stuff. So to have a mentor where you could probably just latch on to this guy and watch everything he does and he teach you along the way, that's what I wish I would have had back then. Somebody that could have mentored me into, and it didn't matter what field it was really, because I dabbled in just about everything. The oil field, I mean, driving trucks, the government. I mean, I did some of everything because I really didn't know what I wanted to be. I know it would have been nice to make a lot of money, and then you start to hear positions in the workforce like a landman. Never heard of a landman. You know what I'm saying? I'm in high school, college. I was in my 30s before I even heard of this position. Like, they're like, yeah, man, the guy makes like $350 a year. Like, why didn't I hear about that when I was 19? I'd have dove on it.
Right.
But you don't hear about that. People tell you, hey, just get an education. Well, I wish somebody would have said, hey, Go figure out how to be a landman. I'd have dove on it because it doesn't, like I said, it didn't matter what field it was in, but there just was not enough direction for me to stay interested in education just by saying, hey, just get education. You don't need something to fall back on. We heard that a lot.
Yeah. For me, I think what I would tell my younger self about work is I have a very strong work ethic. I'm a hard worker no matter what the job is. I'll work hard. I'll be the first one in and the last one to leave. I'll skip a break. I'm a hard worker. But when I think back on my early years, like I said, my first full-time job, I used to call in a lot. Not in the beginning, but towards the end, it was kind of when I started having that feeling like this is not where I'm supposed to be. I would call in for every little thing. Just make up, I'm sick, my car broke down, whatever. And then when I started at the post office, like I said, I didn't start out with bad attendance, but eventually I got there. Basically, it wasn't really that I was making up reasons to call in. It's that my body just was reacting to the work, and I was hurt a lot. So I think what I would tell my younger self is to, even as far as work, is to take care of yourself. Because I'm dealing with a lot of issues pain-wise right now today that stemmed from the work that I did years ago. Me working so hard, working long hours, working in an industry that didn't really care about my safety. And now I have to deal with the repercussions. I actually am in physical therapy. And one of the things the physical therapist said to me yesterday that resonated with me was that as working moms, we put a lot of strain on ourselves. We're not our moms. We're not our moms or grandmoms. Like, we work outside the home and in the home. And we have to care for the kids and care for our husbands and, do all these things. And we don't take the time to take care of ourselves. There has to be a work-life balance. And in my early years, I didn't have work-life balance. Actually, it wasn't until my dad passed away that I made the ultimate decision that work will never come first for me. I now own my own law firm, but if one of my kids or my husband or my mom or somebody needs me, I make myself available. I don't say, oh, I can't come because of work. I make arrangements for whatever needs to be taken care of so that I can be with my family, so that I can have a life. And I think work-life balance is a very important thing that a lot of jobs don't, especially the post office. Like, when I was at the post office, they would draft you for every holiday, which would make you call in to work. You know what I mean? Because it's like, hey, it's Thanksgiving, the post office is closed. Why on earth do I have to be at work to process mail that's not going to go out? It's not going to be delivered anyway. And it just wasn't a job that was conducive to work-life balance. So my advice to my younger self would be to take care of yourself. Make time for yourself. Don't make work the priority. Make your own life the priority.
So earlier you mentioned that you left school and the scholarship and joined the workforce. And so did that decision steer the whole rest of your life the direction it went, would you say?
Yeah, because I didn't, like I said, work came first. Work came before school. Work came before my health. Work came before my parents. It came before my relationships. It just became the focus of my life. And that should not be the case. And like I said, if I could go back and tell my younger self, it would be to enjoy your life. So have a work-life balance.
So imagine, and I'm saying this for young men and women, whoever you are, that you probably come upon a crossroad like this and not even consider the road that it may take you on, and you never come back to, you never end up where you should have went because you made a left at Albuquerque, right? Mm-hmm. So
they won't get there. Right?
Well, yeah. If you don't watch Bugs Bunny, then you won't. You can catch him on YouTube. He's on there, and he's gonna talk about left at Albuquerque. Anyway, so you leave the scholarship, you leave school, you start work. That's the left that you took, and it took you all the way back around. And so on the back end of that, you did go back to school, get a degree, then you went to law school, then got another degree, and got your own law firm. So someone watching could say, what was for you because you ended up with it anyway. But you mentioned the post office. You worked at the post office. The post office was a physically demanding job. How many surgeries? 3
surgeries from the post office.
3 surgeries?
From injuries that I sustained
at the post office. From working. That was the point I was trying to get to. So your body gets broke down that many times, that many surgeries. So surgeries are always meant to avoid them if you can. Surgery is usually
last resort.
Last resort. That's where I was going. But you had 3 last resorts. That's bad, right? Because you're still a young lady and you've gone through 3 surgeries. Who wants to go through 3 surgeries? All this stemmed from that one turn, right? So those that are watching, if you're young, don't think that just the smallest decision at that moment can't steer you away and into 3 surgeries on a job that you probably never would have stepped foot in that building anyway.
If I had continued college, I never would have. The post office wouldn't have been an option.
When they came up, that's amazing to.
Like I said, I had to get the types of jobs that I could get without a degree.
Right.
And that was just the job that I found I could make the most money without a degree.
Right.
But it took such a toll on my body that it was after the first surgery that I said, I can't stay here. And that's when I went back to school. And like you said, being able to focus is crazy. My first 2.5 years of college, when I went straight out of high school, my grades weren't good because I wasn't focused. I was thinking, like so many young people think, this isn't for me. I'm tired of school. I need a break or whatever. But when I went back at 35, straight
wasn't hard to focus at all.
A's and B's. It wasn't hard to focus. I didn't go full time, but I took like 9 hours, which is just one class short of full time. But I was working full time, working overtime. And I was a single mom at the time, so I still found the time to do what I needed to do to graduate. And I ended up graduating with honors because at University of Houston, they only look at the last 60 hours that you are in class to determine whether you graduate with honors. Thank God, because my first 48 hours were tough, right? My GPA was a 2.0. I was able to bring that up tremendously. But like you said, I took that wrong turn, And it wasn't until after that first surgery that God spoke to me and told me, I've let you wander the wilderness long enough. It's time for you to, make this journey. And he told me to go back to college and told me to go to law school. And I was obedient. And he has blessed me abundantly. And, like I said, I have my own law firm. The vision that I had for myself growing up of being an attorney, working in a office building with my own office, I have that. And matter of fact, I can go ahead and make the announcement. My brother and I just bought a franchise. We're opening a title company. So I'll be I am the owner of a title company franchise, White Star Title. It's a black-owned title company here in Houston, Texas. Very good title company. It's fairly new, but we bought a franchise. So all my realtor friends, if when it's time to close on those homes and you're looking for a title company, contact White Star Title. Our franchise will be located in my same office as my law firm. It's kind of going to serve for now as home base for both. So this is just another thing that I'm able to do with my law degree that I had no plans to do, but this was God's plan. So
let me ask you this. We're not gonna say how old you are on the video, but okay. So however your old age you are now, you've had success with what you set out to do, and it's just opening more doors and more doors. What would this life right now have been like? Not at this age, but at that age we were talking about.
I mean, all I can do is be grateful for God's timing, because I don't even think.
Could you imagine?
Yeah.
Can you just imagine for a second, like, you're 23, and this is your life?
And for other races, it is their life.
Right, and so.
But for our race, I'm 46. I'm not ashamed to say I'm 46. But I'm still able, because God is still able. So I'm still able to build this legacy, something to leave my kids, something that I'm building for my family, and it's an amazing feeling.
So parents, I'm going to just throw this in before we move on to the next topic. If you have a kid that's able to focus and get to the other side of graduating fresh out of high school, please encourage those kids. You don't know, I mean, you probably do know how it's hard, because there's a lot of partying going on. The focus is not there. I mean, you're just all over the place when you're young. So to be able to do it and finish it and come out and be able to fly, man, that's awesome. It's easier said than done, definitely. But to have a kid that's on that path, please encourage your kids to do that.
Yeah. Well, since you said that, we had another topic, but we can go into that. As far as parenting, I was 27 when I had my first child. How old were you when you
30?
Were 30. Now we share a 7-year-old. What would you do? What are you doing different with this 7-year-old than you did when you were 30?
Not a whole lot different. I think one of the biggest things I would share with the younger generation is to don't have kids. Don't say, oh, I want to make sure I'm making enough money and all that. You'll never feel like you have enough money unless you hit the lottery. So get that out of your brain. Don't say, oh, I want everything to be perfect. There's no perfect scenario when it comes to money. You can always feel like you need more. I didn't have kids early by being careless, right? Just doing whatever with whoever. My mom taught me better than that. So I hope parents will spend the time to teach your kids the consequences of being willy-nilly when it's hanging out or dating or whatever. Mm-hmm. But aside from that, you need a level of maturity when you're going to have kids, because it's going to take away from your personal life. And if you're one of those people that enjoys what you see in the mirror, then kids may not be for you. And don't think, well, I'm going to start making a legacy with my name, with other, with these women, and they can take care of the kid, and I still want to run with the fellas. Don't do that. Make sure you can be there. Don't be left with the kid and don't have a clue how to change that diaper. You know what I'm saying? You need to be able to put life aside and spend time with that kid. And those are the things I did. I had some pretty good role models. My parents, they, kind of showed me the right way to do things. Like, they always put it in my head about being ready. Mm-hmm. So if you're still out chasing women or dating, there's nothing wrong with dating. But don't put that kid in a position where they can suffer because of your own selfish desire. I want to just keep being wherever and doing whatever. I have friends like that they'll make every excuse in the book why they don't go get that kid and spend time with that kid. Mm-hmm. But I can say this even with all my kids, that seeing them at 1 and 2 years old, man, you do not want to miss those years. Those are the funniest years you'll ever see. They try to mimic everything they see. They try to say words. They say words wrong. Mm-hmm. They try to put sentences together. I mean, there's going to be so much funny stuff that if you don't spend time and raise those kids, you're going to just flat miss out on it. So that's what I would tell the younger generation when it comes to parenting, is be willing to give up your time and yourself to make that kid something. Because those kids, they come here empty. Mm-hmm. And if you don't put something in them, something will. Whether it's the TV, whether it's the neighbor.
YouTube.
Yeah, YouTube. I mean, there's so much stuff now that can put foolishness or garbage or intelligence, whatever. Something's going to go into that kid. So
you should be pouring.
Right. Please, I encourage you to spend time putting good things into those kids so they can represent you.
When I was younger, like I said, I was a single mom. Well, let me rephrase. When I had my daughter at 27, I was married.
Right.
But I left her dad before she even turned 1. And by the time she was 2, we were divorced. And so I was, early on in those formidable years for her, I was a single mother, but I was also going through a divorce, going through the phase of trying to get my life back, trying to date, trying to find a man, kind of trying to find validation in myself that my marriage didn't fail because of me, it was all him. So if I could find a new relationship and make that work, then I know that it wasn't me, it was him. So I think my time with my daughter, even though I did a lot of things with her, I wish that if I could go back and do it again, I would spend more time with her than what I did. Like, we did big things like, going to the circus or, we went a lot of places. Like, I made sure she had those memories. But I think if I were to ask her, she would remember, like I said, I was going to college, working full time and being her mom. So when I was home with her, I would be asleep or studying or doing something for me and not enough for her. Now that I'm older and I'm more financially stable, I notice the difference in my 7-year-old, how I'm able to take him to football practice and actually just sit out there with him for 2 hours while he's practicing. And, him coming over, did you see what I did, Mom? That type of thing. I think with my daughter, I didn't have that type of time to invest in her extracurriculars. Like if she had a recital, I would go to that, but I wasn't just sitting there watching her practice or things like that. So I think I would have spent, if I could go back and do it again or tell my younger self, it would be to spend more time with her. I did try to do things different with her than what my mom did with me. In the aspect of being more accessible. Like my mom would tell me, don't do this, don't do that, don't do that. She wouldn't tell me why. When you ask why, because I said so, was the answer. But with my daughter, I would explain, don't do this because this may happen. This is what happened to me. And I would tell her those things, but I don't think it really seeped in. Maybe when she gets older, she'll see that. But now I don't think she sees the things that I was trying to save her from or protect her from. So maybe if I spent more time with her during her younger years, it will be easier for her to accept the things that I'm saying. But those are the things that I would do different. So what about relationships? What do you think about relationships?
What would I tell my younger self?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how much of what I did in the past I would go back and change, because I didn't turn out bad. I enjoy all my kids from my first marriage, as well as the kids from my second marriage. And they all get along, and I try to be equally accessible to every single one of them. I don't care what they're into, and it's just amazing that these kids can be so closely knit, but at the same time be completely different from each other. Mm-hmm. Every single one of them. But I think the challenge a lot of times is figuring out what each one of them needs individually. Like, you have to be a different parent to each one of them. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of the challenge of being a parent sometimes. But
no, I'm not talking about parenting. I'm talking about your not your relationship with your kids, but prior relationship, like your first marriage or dating relationships.
Oh, okay.
Would you go back and tell what would you tell your younger self as far as dating or your first marriage?
I think my first marriage, a lot of folks say that regardless of what happens, that as long as you learn from it, mm-hmm. that it's not just all bad. It's not a bad experience. Mm-hmm. And so, yes, my first marriage didn't stay together, right? But I don't regret it, because I learned a lot from it. When you've never been married before, which was what we both were, you don't really know what you want or need in a spouse, in a marriage, in a helpmate. And we went to marriage counseling and all these things. We had a pretty good support group, and it still didn't go all the way through. It didn't finish. We were together for over 10 years, but I don't regret them, because, like I say, I learned a lot. And then so after it ended and I go to my next marriage, I know exactly everything I want. And if it can't be that, then I'm not going to get married. Mm-hmm. And so that's kind of where Get a Love Like Mine kind of evolved from, is that this marriage now, there's no foolishness, I guess, to kind of shortcuts in. There's no arguing, no bickering. There's no, looking side-eyed over money or
no jealousy, no competition,
no checking, going through people's phones and all that foolishness. It's relaxing, and it gets to the point where you're so dependent on that other person that you just wake up looking for them. Mm-hmm. Like I don't need anything else. Life is short. You have a very small group of inside circle friends, mm-hmm. which is probably family members anyway at this point in your life. Like my mom told me, "Oh, them people aren't your friend," and she was right. They weren't. But to have it, you really only need 1, 2, maybe 3 really, really good friends that look out for you, that are in your corner, and that's who my wife is to me. And so that's just the way I live my life. So, like I say, I didn't have my first kid until I was 30. So I wouldn't go back and say, man, you should have waited, because, I did wait. But I don't think I would have done much of anything different, or what I would have told my younger self, because some things, especially dating or, out in the clubs or whatever, some of those things you just have to learn from experience. You know what I'm saying?
You definitely have to learn, and I was always one of those people who had to learn the hard way. Like, you could have told me, don't go down there. I was still going to go down there and see. I didn't trust everybody's opinion. I'm still that way in some aspects. Someone may give me advice, and if I don't really respect your opinion, I'll listen to your advice, but I'm probably not going to take it, because I can look at your life and see that you don't even take your own advice. So, but relationship-wise, I too I don't regret my first marriage, mainly because my daughter was a product of it. And, we tried for several months to have a baby. And so, she's the best thing that came from that marriage. But I learned a lot. I had ideals of what I thought marriage was supposed to be going in, and it wasn't anything like that. And so I learned who I am as a wife. And I learned what I need in a husband. Sometimes when you're young, you just want a husband. You don't have a clue what that actually means. It just means that you get to say, I'm married and I have a husband. But I really in my first marriage learned what I need from a husband. And was able to get that in my second marriage. But as far as other dating relationships, I said a couple of episodes ago, by the time I was 23, I had 3 major boyfriends, and if I could go back and tell my younger self something about those relationships, it would be to value my own self more. To not accept anything less than what I think I deserve, and to not focus so much on boys or men, to like I said about the work, to put my own life first. Because sometimes when you're in a relationship, you're so involved in that relationship, and so trying to spend so much time with that other person, especially when you're younger, because you can't live together, or you don't live together, so you're trying to spend as much time with that person as possible, that you put other things on the back burner. And so if I could tell my younger self anything, it would be to just put more value on my own self, and not to accept anything less than what I deserve. And I think I learned that during my first marriage. There was an incident of domestic violence in my first marriage, and it really only took that one incident for me to say. And like I said, my daughter was a baby. She was like maybe 6 or 7 months when it happened, and I was able to say, I'm not going to allow my daughter to be raised in a home where her dad is being abusive to her mom, being an alcoholic, doing, I just didn't want her raised in that. And because I had seen my mom be a single mother, I knew that I could do it. I knew that, if push came to shove, I could take care of her by myself. And I did until, I met my husband, and he stepped in as a great stepdad and role model, and gave her siblings, because she was the only child until we got married, and then all of a sudden she had a sister and 2 brothers, and then we had a baby, and she had 3 brothers.
So tell me this. This is a good question. Could have been on Ask the Amoses, but this will be Ask the Amos inside the Amoses. You mentioned what you would tell your younger self when it comes to dating, to value yourself, to focus more on yourself, even though you want to spend time with this person, you can't live with them, all those other good things. You want to keep the guy that you're dating happy or interested or whatever. So, to the young ladies that are listening, 18, 19, 21, 23, that may be in that spot right now, how does that look? What can you tell them to have balance here, to be able to pull this off, that you don't want to tell this guy no so much because I'm going to do things that I need to do for myself, but at the same time, I'm still going to live my life where I'm going to keep my standards up here. So, any foolishness you got going on down here ain't going to cut it, because you're going to come up here with me. What can you tell them, or how can they live their life in that way to actually pull that off? Because that's not easy.
It kind of requires a bit of selfishness, if that's the best word I can come up with to say. You have to not be afraid to lose. You have to not be afraid to lose.
When you say lose, you mean
lose him.
Relationship, okay.
Yeah, because a lot of times, us as women, we compromise ourselves. We, if let's say the guy works, and he works the evening shift, 3 to 11:30. We want to be with him so bad that we'll come out the house at midnight trying to just to see him or spend time with him. And sometimes it's because we want to spend time with him. Sometimes it's because we want to make sure he's not spending time with somebody else. But we compromise ourselves and our own safety trying to make ourselves accessible to them. And when I say you can't be afraid to lose, sometimes you have to be able to say, I have enough respect for myself and for my own safety that I'm not leaving out the house at midnight. If you want to see me so bad, you need to come to me. If you want to be with me so bad, you need to come to me. And it kind of goes back to valuing yourself and knowing your worth. The man is supposed to chase you. You're not supposed to chase him. You're not supposed to make yourself so accessible to a man that you're available anytime he calls. He's supposed to be the one chasing after you, not you chasing after him. And that's what it comes down to. So if you're not scared to lose, you can say, no, I'm not coming out the house at midnight. Or no, I'm not doing this, or I'm not doing that. Because you're not afraid to lose, because you realize that you're the prize. You're the thing that he's trying to find. The Bible says when a man finds a wife, he finds a good thing. You're the good thing. It doesn't say when the woman finds her husband. You're the good thing. You're the prize. So value your own self-worth and don't be afraid to lose. Because I personally feel like when you don't make yourself so accessible, that makes him want to chase you more. Because if he's got 3 other women who are all like, lined up fighting over him, he's going to wonder what it is about you that you're not doing that. You have more self-esteem. You have more value in your own self-worth. And you're the one that he'll say, that's the one that needs to be my wife. Not the ones that are knocking on his door at 2 o'clock in the morning. I know a lot of people think that's what men want. And I'm not saying he wouldn't take advantage of the lady knocking on his door at 2 in the morning. But that's not going to be his wife. But that is advice that I would give any young girl.
I think it's hard to walk that line.
It's very hard to even listen to that. Like I said, when I was that age, if somebody had told me that, it would have went in one ear and out the other. You can't appreciate the value of that type of advice until you get older and you have gone through it and you look back and say, man, I lost myself. I hear so many women say, I lost myself in that relationship. It's because you were afraid to lose. You compromised yourself. You tried to become who you thought he wanted you to be instead of valuing who you really were. When you value who you really are, he will see the value in you. It will give him a level of respect for you that he may not have for those other women who are just, making themselves completely accessible to that man. Anyway, we do have an Ask the Amoses. So, bear with me. Seems like it's a lot, so I'm gonna read it, but we may not. It looks like a lot of questions. So anyway, it says, if you won $1 million tomorrow, what would you do with it? Or if you didn't have to work anymore, what would you do?
If I won $1 million tomorrow, what would I do? You mean after I holler and scream? I would definitely see. It's good to answer these questions once you've been broke before, because I can give an answer that's not gonna be foolish and say, "Well, I seen a Ferrari that Kevin Hart had, and I just have to have it." Well, no, $1 million is not gonna go on that. But I'm going to find a way. I'm just gonna assume, answering this question, I'm still married, right? So I'm going to find a way, me and my spouse, to separate this money where we're going to spend a percent and possibly invest a percent, and we're definitely going to save the biggest percent. So, yeah, we're going to have a little fun, but it's not going to be $1 million worth of fun.
$1 million really is not
a
whole lot of money. I know to some people it's a lot of money, but I think if I had $1 million, I wouldn't even say I would buy a new house. I probably would buy a new car, and then do a little traveling and invest and save.
Because $1 million, you could lose a good portion of that just on a house. So if you already live in a house, then maybe you need to make a decision. Are we going to sell this house and find a way to either build another one or whatever, depending on what we can get from this one, or maybe we just need to stay put and zero this one out But like you said,
redecorate, make
right.
it a new house.
Like you said, $1 million can evaporate very quickly. Now, if you're a youngster and you get $1 million and you've never really had to feel the sting of being broke, then it'll almost be like a curse the way you'll blow through that money. Mm-hmm. You'll get fresh new friends that you never knew you had. They will come around.
Because the second part of the question said, or if you didn't have to work anymore, what would you do? If there was no cap on the money, so that's probably going to be more than $1 million, and I didn't have to work anymore, I probably would, depending on if I still have small kids, because if I still have small kids, my day is still going to have structure. But if, let's say I don't have any kids in school, so that means I don't have to wake up with the alarm. I can just wake up when I want to wake up. I probably would have me some good breakfast every morning, a cup of coffee, go work out after I digest my food, find somewhere to go, because just staying in the house all day, I know that'll get boring.
Oh yeah, definitely. And then you don't have to worry about money.
Yeah, if I didn't have to worry about money, I would probably just go. I probably would start going to museums and all kinds of stuff just to be able to get out the house and see different things. And I would definitely travel. Maybe just go walk around the mall. Maybe not even to buy anything, just to look and see what I could see. And, go to extracurricular things like plays or the theater or the movie. I think I just would spend a lot of time outside of the home. But not, I think my biggest thing now is being under time constraints. Like, you have to have an alarm, you have to be here by this time. So if I didn't have to work, I would want a life with no time constraints. That's one of my biggest things, like when I take vacation, is to turn that alarm off. I feel like that is the biggest thing in the world, to be able to turn that alarm off and just wake up when I want to wake up. But so there was another question on here that I want to ask, only because I feel like it will be a good season ender. It says, what is the most important thing that guys should understand about girls? And it seems to you that they do not understand.
Man, we could have led the show off of that. That's a whole nother show. Wow,
I think that's a good season ender.
In my experience, this is what the guys need to understand, or the girls?
The guys.
Okay.
The guys need to understand about
girls. What guys really, really need to understand about girls is that the two of you are so different. Your mentalities are different. Your train of thoughts are different. Y'all are not going to see things the same way. There's the old saying, opposites attract. And to have a good mate, partner, husband, wife, whatever you want to call it, you need that other person to see and do the things that you aren't good at. Mm-hmm. Sometimes you need a different perspective on taking a job, buying a car, spending money, investing, that you didn't see when you got all excited, I'm going to do this. And that person says, well, you didn't read at the bottom right here where it says you have to move and... you have to move.
You didn't read the fine print?
You didn't read the fine print. Well, that person is the fine print reader. You need somebody that can do that, because you skip right over it. I had a old homeboy of mine. He didn't have somebody to read the fine print for him all the time. And we make jokes about him to this day, because he'll bid on stuff on an auction, like on eBay or something, and he didn't read the full description of what he's bidding on. He just looked at that picture. See, you're laughing. You know exactly who it is. But if he had that person, because he would get all excited over what he's bidding on, and he'd send a picture of it to me. And I'm the person that I'm gonna at least see what all it says over here. Because on eBay it can be tricky. There's some people on there that are out to get you. Everybody's not, just righteous. Some folks will try to get you. Well, he would find some kind of way. He was able to find these I'm gonna try to get you people. He was always running into them. And boy, he would get overexcited. He seen the price was way down from everybody else's price for the same thing. And boy, he dived right in and bid on it. Well, he found out what he was bidding on was some foolishness. Somebody that don't even start up or it doesn't even work. And now he's stuck with it. And I remember one time he bid on he thought it was a car radio, but when he read the description again, it said it was a list of where you can buy a car radio similar to this.
Similar to the picture?
Right, it was just a list, and the list had Best Buy, it had Walmart. And so I said that opposite attract, but one of the things that I learned that was huge, that even though I went to marriage counseling, no one really ever mentioned this, and they should have, because it turned out to be the biggest ingredient for me to make a relationship work, is that other person, y'all need to be able to coexist mentally. Like, you can be around someone and what you think is a good idea, they may look at it and go, well, that's pretty dumb. But to find someone that can think like you and understand the way you think, because see, inevitably at the end of the day, you want this person to be your best friend. You want to be able to discuss everything with this person. You want them to know you like the back of their hand. You want them to be able to complete your sentences, so to speak. So you don't want to be talking about something and they're totally not interested, or they're not interested because they don't understand, right? You want to be able to talk to them about something and you think it's a good idea, and they're like, oh, and you can also do this and this with that too. See, they can find a way to expand your good idea. Not someone shooting your idea down. Like, I've dated a lady that I was always, in my younger days, I was trying to always find other ways to make money. And instead of encouraging me, she would say, oh, Lord, he come again with one of his dumb ideas. Well, pretty soon, guess what? I didn't discuss my ideas with her because she was always shooting them down. We didn't coexist mentally. So that's a huge thing for me, is for y'all to be able to understand the way each other thinks, because that's really the only way she's going to get to be your best friend.
I think one thing I would say as far as what men should understand about women, like you said, we do think different, but we are more emotional than logical. So I know sometimes men, they get angry with the things that you're saying when you're trying to express how you feel, and it's because women are being emotional, and it doesn't seem logical to the man. But in our heads, it is logical. It's just that we're so emotional about it that we are expressing ourselves more emotionally than logically. So I think if you look at the intent behind what she's saying as opposed to how she's saying it, you'll get a better understanding of where she's coming from. A lot of times us as women, we just want you to understand where we're coming from. You don't have to necessarily say we're right. We just want to know that you understand what we're trying to say, because sometimes when we say it, it's the thought is there, the logical thought is there, but because we're coming from such an emotional place, it may not come off as logical. It comes off as, oh, she's just yelling, and well, she's not meaning to yell. She's trying to express something important to you. And so, like you were saying about, understanding her frame of mind, just keep that type of thing in mind when dealing with women.
And let me just throw this part in before we end. Imagine this, the Bible breaks up the differences. It says a woman to feel, what she needs from a man is to feel loved. It never says that about the man. The man needs to feel respected. Mm-hmm. So just those two things, and that's in the Bible, those two things right there just goes to show you they don't even have the same needs coming from the other person. Mm-hmm. See, this guy here, he needs his woman to respect him more than he needs to feel loved from her. That's in the Bible. So understand, even biblically, y'all's needs are different. Mm-hmm. So that'll get you on the right track of trying to figure out, don't try to get from her don't try to give her what you need. You need to figure out what she needs, because she doesn't need the same thing you need.
Right. So we just want to pray blessings over you guys' lives. We hope that you have enjoyed season 1 of the Get a Love Like Mine podcast. We pray that if you missed an episode, you'll go back and look, and that it'll be a blessing to you. If you want to share it with somebody else, feel free, so that everybody can be caught up before season 2 begins. We may do things a little different in season 2. We're definitely going to try to step up the production, step up having sponsors. Speaking of sponsors, this sweater that I'm wearing came from an online store. It's called 360 Dar Oak Finds, DAROAKFINDS. It's an online store. This sweater, I love it. So if you guys want to send us some products that you want us to wear on the podcast, just send us an email to Get a Love Like Mine podcast and put sponsor in the subject line. We will still be doing Ask the Amoses. So if you want your question read, we're not going to do a complete show, but we will read your question and answer it in a segment and post for you. If you want your question read on the show, send an email to getalovelikemindepodcast@gmail.com and put in the subject line Ask the Amoses. Again, we pray that you guys have enjoyed this first season. We hope that season 2 will be bigger and better.
Yes, and I just want to display this item that I was part of the Varnell Hill show when it aired. They wanted me to show this awesome T-shirt to show that I was part of the show. I just made that up because my wife was talking about a sweater. But
oh my goodness. Y'all see what I'm dealing with? Okay. But anyway, we hope you guys have a Merry Christmas, a Happy Holiday, a Happy New Year, and we will see you guys next year.
Season. Thank you.